Think about the last time you were truly alone, not just physically away from other people but genuinely unobserved, unaccountable, free to do or think or feel anything without any awareness that someone might be watching. That feeling, the specific relief of privacy, the sense that this particular space and this particular moment belong only to you, is something you probably value more than you consciously realize. You close bathroom doors, you have passwords, you choose what to share and what to keep. Privacy is so fundamental to the way you experience being yourself that you have almost certainly never stopped to question whether it is a natural human need or a relatively recent invention. The answer to that question, delivered by the archaeological record and the anthropological study of populations still living outside modern structures, is deeply unsettling, and it reveals something about the way humans were actually designed to live that the walls around you have been hiding for a very long time. The first thing to understand is scale. For the overwhelming majority of human evolutionary history, your ancestors lived in bands of between 20 and 50 people. This was not a preference or a cultural arrangement. It was a biological and practical necessity. Too few people and the group could not sustain itself through illness, injury, or the demands of coordinated survival. Too many and the environment could not support the food requirements without a level of territorial organization that nomadic life did not permit. 30 to 50 people, roughly the size of a school classroom, living, moving, eating, sleeping, and spending nearly every waking hour within a few meters of each other. There were no rooms. There were no doors. There were no separate spaces designated for individuals or couples or families. The shelters that existed, whether natural caves, constructed hides, or temporary structures built from available materials, were communal by necessity and design. Sleep happened collectively, grouped around a fire for warmth and safety, bodies close enough to share heat. Every movement and sound immediately perceptible to anyone awake nearby. The modern experience of lying alone in a room behind a closed door with your thoughts entirely to yourself would have been not just unusual, but genuinely frightening in an environment where isolation meant vulnerability and proximity meant protection. Solitude was not a comfort, it was a danger signal. The bodily functions that modern humans perform behind locked doors in rooms specifically constructed for that purpose were simply performed, wherever, whenever, without ceremony or concealment beyond moving a short distance from the sleeping area. Archaeological sites consistently show latrine areas at the periphery of camps, but the concept that these were private spaces in any psychologically meaningful sense is a projection backward from modern assumptions. The body was not a source of shame. Its functions were not hidden. They were as unremarkable as any other biological activity performed by any other member of the group, in plain view of anyone who happened to be nearby. Relationships were not private either. The romantic and sexual partnerships that modern humans conduct behind closed doors in spaces specifically designed to prevent observation were conducted within the same continuous social field as everything else. Evidence from remaining hunter-gatherer populations suggests that while there were norms around sexual behavior, the level of concealment and privacy that modern Western culture attaches to intimate relationships simply did not exist in the same form. Childbirth, one of the most private events in modern life, was attended by the group. Grief was performed collectively immediately, without the option of withdrawing to process emotion in private. The entire emotional register that modern humans experience in solitude, sadness, fear, joy, confusion was experienced in public, witnessed, and responded to by the people immediately surrounding the person feeling it. Personal possessions, the things around which modern privacy is largely organized, were minimal to the point of near non-existence for most of human prehistory. A hunter-gatherer on the move carries what they can carry. The concept of ownership that underlies modern privacy, the idea that certain information, spaces, or objects belong to one specific person and are protected from access by others, requires a level of accumulated material goods that nomadic life simply did not generate. There was almost nothing to keep private, because there was almost nothing to keep. And yet, the evidence suggests that even within this radical openness, something functioned that served a similar psychological purpose to what modern humans call privacy. Hunting often involved individuals or small pairs moving independently through landscapes, hours away from the group, alone with whatever the interior of their mind contained. Gathering required similar dispersal. Certain ritual practices, particularly those associated with initiation and transition, appear to have involved deliberate separation from the main group. The experience of being temporarily away from constant observation existed. What did not exist was the concept that this separation was something one had a right to, something that could be claimed and defended within the social group itself. The walls came later. Literally, agriculture created fixed locations, which required boundaries, which created the concept of inside and outside, which produced the first architectural privacy. Accumulated food and goods required protection, which produced the concept of ownership strong enough to exclude others. Larger and more stratified populations created social distance between individuals who no longer knew each other personally, which produced the need for managed presentation of self to strangers. Privacy as a concept, as a right, as something a person could demand and expect others to respect, is essentially a product of the conditions that agriculture and settled life created. Your expectation of it is approximately 10,000 years old. The species that carries that expectation is more than 300,000. Here is the part that sits most uncomfortably with modern sensibilities. Studies of individuals in remaining small-scale societies and studies of modern humans in conditions of forced sustained proximity like research stations, long voyages, and communal living experiments consistently show that the absence of privacy does not produce the misery that people who have always had it predict it will. What it tends to produce instead is a depth of social connection, a fluency in reading other people, and an absence of the specific loneliness that characterizes modern life at scale. The population that had no privacy was arguably the least lonely population in human history. The population with the most privacy in the history of the species reports an epidemic of it. There may be something in that exchange worth sitting with the next time you find yourself alone behind a closed door, grateful for the silence, wondering why it does not quite feel like enough.